Have you ever wondered why some kings are remembered as heroes while others are forgotten as failures? The book of 2 Chronicles holds the ultimate leadership playbook that reveals the shocking truth about what makes or breaks a ruler. Today we're diving deep into one of the most overlooked books in the Bible that contains more drama than a Netflix series and more wisdom than any modern business school. 2 Chronicles isn't just another religious text gathering dust on your shelf. This ancient manuscript contains the blueprint for understanding power, corruption, redemption, and the consequences of our choices. Whether you're leading a team at work, raising a family, or simply trying to navigate life's challenges, the lessons buried in these pages will change how you view leadership forever. Let me paint you a picture of what we're about to uncover together. Imagine a kingdom that goes from the peak of human achievement to complete devastation in just a few generations. Picture temples covered in pure gold being reduced to rubble, armies of millions clashing in epic battles, and leaders making decisions that echo through centuries. This isn't fantasy, this is the raw, unfiltered account of the rise and fall of one of history's most influential civilizations. 2 Chronicles picks up where 1 Chronicles left off, but with a laser focus on the southern kingdom of Judah and its temple worship. The author, traditionally believed to be Ezra the priest, wrote this account after the Babylonian exile to help the returning Jewish people understand their history and identity. Think of it as the ultimate comeback story manual for a nation trying to rebuild itself from the ashes. The book opens with Solomon, David's son, ascending to the throne. But here's what most people miss: 2 Chronicles doesn't just tell us Solomon was wise and wealthy. It reveals the specific moment when everything changed for him and his kingdom. When God appears to Solomon in a dream and offers him anything he desires, Solomon's response reveals the secret to his incredible success. Instead of asking for riches or long life, he requests wisdom to govern God's people effectively. This single decision transforms Solomon into the wealthiest and most powerful ruler of his time. The chronicler describes Solomon's kingdom in breathtaking detail: 700 wives, 300 concubines, a fleet of ships bringing exotic goods from distant lands, and a throne room that left visiting dignitaries speechless. But here's the twist that changes everything: the very thing that made Solomon great eventually becomes his downfall. The construction of Solomon's temple represents the pinnacle of human achievement in the ancient world. 2 Chronicles dedicates entire chapters to describing this architectural marvel because it represents something far more significant than impressive craftsmanship. The temple becomes the physical symbol of God's presence among his people, the center of worship, and the heart of the nation's identity. When Solomon dedicates the temple, something extraordinary happens. Fire comes down from heaven and consumes the sacrifices, and God's glory fills the building so powerfully that the priests cannot even enter. This moment represents the high point of Israel's spiritual history, but the chronicler is setting us up for the devastating contrast that follows. As Solomon grows older, his heart turns away from God. His foreign wives introduce idol worship, and the king who once demonstrated perfect wisdom begins making catastrophic decisions. The chronicler doesn't shy away from showing us how quickly things can unravel when leaders lose sight of their foundational principles. After Solomon's death, the kingdom splits in two, and 2 Chronicles follows the southern kingdom of Judah through a roller coaster of righteous and wicked kings. Each ruler's story becomes a case study in leadership, showing us the immediate and long-term consequences of their choices. King Rehoboam starts his reign by making one of the worst leadership decisions in history. When the people ask for relief from Solomon's heavy taxation, Rehoboam ignores the advice of experienced counselors and instead listens to his young friends who encourage him to be even harsher. This single moment of poor judgment splits the kingdom forever and demonstrates how pride can destroy everything previous generations built. But 2 Chronicles isn't just a series of cautionary tales. The book is filled with incredible comeback stories that show how individuals and nations can recover from even the worst circumstances. King Asa removes idol worship and experiences military victories against impossible odds. King Jehoshaphat establishes a judicial system based on justice and sees his kingdom prosper. King Hezekiah reopens the temple after years of closure and witnesses one of the most miraculous military deliverances in history. The chronicler wants us to see a clear pattern: when leaders and people align themselves with God's principles, they experience blessing, prosperity, and protection. When they abandon these principles, they face consequences that ripple through generations. This isn't about religious ritual, it's about the fundamental laws that govern human societies and personal success. One of the most dramatic stories involves King Manasseh, who starts as the most wicked ruler in Judah's history. He practices child sacrifice, fills Jerusalem with innocent blood, and leads the nation into spiritual darkness. But when the Assyrians capture him and take him to Babylon in chains, something remarkable happens. In his distress, Manasseh humbles himself and calls out to God, who responds with forgiveness and restoration. This transformation story reveals something profound about human nature and redemption. No one is beyond the possibility of change, and no situation is hopeless if we're willing to acknowledge our mistakes and change direction. Manasseh's story becomes a beacon of hope for anyone who feels they've gone too far or made too many mistakes to recover. The book reaches its climactic moment with King Josiah, who discovers the lost book of the law during temple renovations. This discovery triggers the most comprehensive spiritual revival in Judah's history. Josiah destroys every trace of idol worship, restores proper temple worship, and leads the nation back to God with unprecedented enthusiasm. But even this incredible revival cannot prevent the approaching judgment. The chronicler shows us that while individual repentance always brings personal restoration, some consequences of poor choices cannot be completely avoided. The cumulative effect of generations of unfaithfulness has set forces in motion that will ultimately lead to the Babylonian exile. The book concludes with the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, the deportation of the people to Babylon, and finally, Cyrus the Persian king's decree allowing the Jews to return and rebuild. This ending isn't defeat, it's hope. The chronicler is writing to people who have experienced this return and wants them to understand that God's purposes cannot be thwarted by human failure. 2 Chronicles teaches us that history moves in cycles of blessing, complacency, rebellion, judgment, repentance, and restoration. Understanding these cycles helps us recognize where we are personally and collectively, and what steps we need to take to move toward blessing rather than judgment. The practical applications are staggering. Every leadership principle taught in modern business schools appears in these ancient stories: the importance of seeking wise counsel, the danger of surrounding yourself with yes men, the necessity of staying connected to your foundational values, and the power of admitting mistakes and changing course. Whether you're facing personal challenges, leading others, or trying to understand the world around you, 2 Chronicles provides a framework for navigating life's complexities with wisdom and integrity. The book reminds us that our choices matter, our actions have consequences, and redemption is always possible for those humble enough to seek it. This ancient text continues to speak powerfully to modern audiences because human nature hasn't changed. The same temptations, challenges, and opportunities that faced these ancient kings face us today, making 2 Chronicles not just historical literature, but a timeless guide for anyone serious about living a meaningful and impactful life.